Hello, everyone. Welcome to Carolina Perspective. I'm Sheree Bernardi. My guest, we've talked to him before, Chad Logan. He heads up the Hope Project. He is the founder and executive director, and it's an organization that helps those in the grips of substance abuse and the problems that come with it. Chad, welcome to the program. It's good to hear your voice. I received an email from you recently that kind of struck a very positive note about what is happening with the Hope Project. So I thought that we would spend some time talking about that.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be back, Sheree. Thanks so much for having me.
You're reaching out to more people?
Yeah, so we're definitely reaching more people now, and you wouldn't think during a pandemic where everyone's on quarantine that we would be able to reach more people, but this has really encouraged us to kind of up our technology game and our social media game, and so, man, we've been able to reach. We've got we have our weekly gathering where everything has gone virtual now. Mm-hmm. Where we have people watching from all over the United States. We've got a faithful viewer of our weekly gathering. And if you don't know about our weekly gathering, if you're listening, we have a gathering each week where we share an encouraging message. We're actually going through a series right now on what we believe are the 12 steps to freedom from addiction. And then we have small groups that meet after that. We call them our community support groups, and they're for anyone who has ever been addicted or is addicted. And then we've got one for their families, and then we've got one just for people that are looking for community and growth. So believe it or not, we've got a faithful viewer and listener from North Pole, Alaska.
Wow!
And and so we've got a girl from Massachusetts that listens, and it's just all over the place. And so it's been really cool to see as we really focused on our online presence over the last 6 months. We've been able to reach people that we probably wouldn't have been able to reach that are not here in Charleston, but still need that hope of recovery. So it's been really, really interesting.
You know, when the email spoke of that woman that you just mentioned in Massachusetts, and I thought, of everything that you can access online, and I mean, it has to be billions of things, outlets and websites and everything, that it's really something when, say, the Hope Project is found by someone. Because,
right.
and I hate to sound simple, but cyberspace is pretty vast. And if you're seeing an increase, and as far away as North Pole, I mean, where do you access substances in the North Pole, Chad? Come on. But I just think, your reach is really, to me, just sounds kind of phenomenal.
It's really been such a blessing. And, getting to hear these different stories. Each person that logs on every week, we have them text in a word to a phone number, and then that gives us the opportunity to reach out to them and follow up with them. And it's been so amazing to hear some of these different stories and to hear about the addiction problem in North Pole, Alaska, believe it or not. And to talk to these people and then to be able to walk with them, to be able to invite them into our community groups and see them grow and change right in front of our eyes. And it just feels like a dream sometimes that we get to be a part of change for so many different people in so many different areas. It's just a blessing.
Yeah.
It really is.
And we will mention that, Chad, what you're talking about when it comes to, substance addiction and things like that. You've walked that road.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I lived for 15 years out in the world. Ended up being an IV heroin user, constant alcoholic. You name it, I did it for 15 years. And in 2011, I was 27 years old, and I was sleeping on my dad's couch, and I was really at a place where, I decided, I said, hey, I'm either going to get well and live hopefully as much of a productive life as I can, or I'm going to die like this. And so for me, really, it was a life or death situation, and I decided to get treatment and decided to do some things that set me up well to be in recovery for the long haul. And so basically what we've done at the Hope Project it was kind of a perfect storm of things that helped me to get sober. There were some really key things. Somebody shared the love of Jesus with me, the love of God with me. They immersed me in a like-minded community, a community of people who all had kind of the same problem I did, an addiction, whether it's porn or alcohol or drugs. It's all kind of the same. And so I was put into a community of those people, and I was grown up in not just my walk with God, but in my understanding of addiction and what this disease was. You know, the American Medical Association considers addiction a disease. So this is not, up for discussion. This was a disease I was dealing with. And so that's kind of what we've tried to recreate at the Hope Project, was an environment that is conducive to people growing up as far as, being shared the love of God, being immersed in a community of people that are like-minded, that are, trying to figure this thing out like them. Some are farther along than others, and just kind of grown up. And we've really been able to see a lot of people find success. We've got multiple people that are part of our ministry that are now volunteers that have got over a year sober and came to the Hope Project hopeless and a mess, and really at their wits' end. And we've seen just great success with this model, and really been able to see some people find some real joy and some real peace, because we know addiction, it may look pleasurable and it may look like something that could be fun, but it always leads to depression and anxiety, and it's just a bad combination of things.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of a one-way road to nowhere.
It is. It is. It's definitely, the people that come to us, they've burned every bridge. Their family doesn't want anything to do with them. They're sick. Some of them have cirrhosis. Some are, have different diseases and stuff. And but most people, if we catch in time, they can be saved. They can be salvaged, and all that damage that they've done can be undone. And that's one of the things that we teach them to do, is how to undo that damage that they've done with their family members in their lives and the people that love them, how to make those amends, and then have a living amends of just doing better and showing them that they're changed. Yeah, and so it's really, really interesting. And Sheree, in a time like this, where just in Charleston County, we went from about 40 overdoses a month to about 80 or 90 overdoses a month in March.
Oh, wow.
When this pandemic hit. So we have seen just an influx of addiction and overdose from heroin and fentanyl, and the mental health rates have skyrocketed. I mean, depression and anxiety and all these things are really at an all-time high, because people are they're trapped in their own homes. And these people that would normally go to recovery meetings or have community that's going to support them and help them grow on their walk with God and with recovery, have been forced to be stuck in their homes. And we got Zoom meetings. I think if I see another Zoom call, I'm going to be sick. But that is kind of where we're at. And so it's really been heartbreaking. We've seen people pass away over the last 6 months that have been a part of our ministry that relapse. We've seen people with long-term recovery relapse and kind of right back where they started. And so we're really excited about the fact that this last Monday, September 14th, we were able to start back with in-person gatherings, and we couldn't be more excited. We really feel like our family has come home, and we all get to be together again, and we really call ourselves a family of of screw-ups and the misfits and the people that don't fit in really anywhere else, but they fit in at the Hope Project.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say they don't fit in.
No,
I just mean that they're a different breed.
Yeah.
And we call ourselves affectionately, we call ourselves the wild ones, because we're wild. We've got a wild streak in us, but we know that when God gets a hold of that wild person, he can do so much good in the world through those people, because most addicts and alcoholics don't know how to do anything halfway. So if you get them turned around and going the other way, and God gets a hold of them, man, the possibilities of what he can do with them are just crazy awesome. And we've seen so many people, like I said, find recovery as a result of being a part of the Hope Project, and now are leaders in our organization that are leading teams and are helping with follow-up and care and prayer. And it's just such an amazing, amazing thing to be a part of, and to see people literally be saved from the grips of death and now be walking in freedom and walking in life and turning around and helping other people in our organization. It's just really an amazing thing to be a part of.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Chad Logan. He heads up the Hope Project. He is the founder, the executive director, and he knows that which he speaks of when it comes to kicking the substance abuse and alcohol habits. Chad, you mentioned, I know that God is very important in your personal life, but also in the Hope Project. Is it possible to recover without that, looking up to some kind of spiritual tour founder, creator? Does everyone latch on to that, or is it more successful when you bring the higher power into your life? Or do some people, are they able to do what the Hope Project does, but it's all very clinical and take this and wean yourself off that? There's clearly has to be a difference in philosophies and presentation.
Yeah, that is a great question, Sheree. And we could talk for hours on that, but I'm going to kind of give you the 30,000-foot view of really my take on it. So really, people with the disease of addiction are essentially powerless over their addiction. Mm-hmm. It starts with a spiritual sickness, and it turns into a mental obsession, and then a physical craving. We call it the three-part illness, where it starts in your spirit, and then it goes to a mental obsession, and then a physical like compulsion almost. Right. And once people put the drug into their body, they call it starts what we call the phenomenon of craving. So this is why people put a drink in their body and they get blackout drunk. Or this is why people take one Xanax and then they take 15 because there's an allergy that actually gets set off in their body, and it makes them get to a point to where they can't stop. And so what I'm trying to say by all this is that essentially people who have the disease of addiction are powerless over their addiction. Mm-hmm. These are good people. I always say that people with addictions are good people. They're not bad people. They're sick people. And sometimes they're bad people, and that can be turned around as well. But oftentimes they're good people with a bad, sick addiction. And so what we teach them is that if you are really addicted, you are powerless over that addiction. And so we believe that you have to find a power source, something that is greater than yourself that can restore you to sanity. We choose to call that power Jesus, but we don't force anyone to think what we believe. We just share with them what's working for us. But you've got to have something that is greater than yourself that can restore you to sanity. And then you've got to turn your will and your life over to the power of that source, because people that are really addicted, really alcoholics, have been trying to do it on their own power for a long time, usually, because they want to quit. And oftentimes people can actually quit, and they can stay quit for 2 to 10 years, but oftentimes they're not happy. They're walking in defeat, and we call that white knuckling it. I always explain it as, it's like holding your breath. You can only hold your breath for so long, and when you let that breath out, all hell breaks loose, and you get drunk or high again. So what we teach at the Hope Project is there really is a way to overcome your addiction through realizing your powerlessness, finding that power source, and then turning your will and your life over to the care of that power. And so that's kind of what we share, because we believe that those are the first 3 steps you have to take in finding complete freedom from the grips of an addiction. And so there are other ways to do it, but I've never seen anyone be able to really find freedom without following that process. Anyone that is really, really addicted is powerless. And so you've got to find a power source.
When one decides that, as you went through, as you decide, yeah, I'm sick of this, I'm going to change my life, and I'm really going to do it this time. I'm sure many people say that. I mean, it's just like stopping any habit that we might have. I don't care if it's eating chocolate in bed. I don't care if it's smoking or whatever.
Yeah.
But we all may start out with the best intentions, and then it doesn't work. Is there like an average of how many times someone may set out to change their lives for the better, but they find it's just too hard, or they weren't ready, or it just didn't work?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the odds are against the addict and the alcoholic. The success rate of someone, completely finding freedom from their addiction is staggering. It's not very high, but that's again why we teach this 12-step method here at the Hope Project, because this is what we've seen the most success with. But I talk to family members a lot. We get a lot of family members that call, and they're distraught and they're at their wits' end because their loved one or their family member is just out of control. And I tell them that you need to cut them off. Don't give them any more money. Don't give them a place to stay, because the quicker we can get the addict or alcoholic to a place of rock bottom, which means they are at the worst of their addiction or alcoholism, the quicker we can get them well. Because in my experience, the addict or alcoholic has to get to a place of just the lowest of the low. They've got to get to a place where they don't have any other options but to get well, because they know they're dying. And because what we tell addicts and alcoholics is, here's the future they have to look forward to: jail, institution, or death. Those are the 3 alternatives. And so we hope and we pray that people that come to our ministry, that their rock bottom will happen before they die. And that's one of the big reasons that we do our opioid education and Narcan training and distribution. And basically what we do with that is we train people on the effects of opiates, and then we're going to teach them about signs and symptoms of an overdose, and then we get Narcan in their hands. And if you don't know what Narcan is, it's a life-saving drug that you actually spray up someone's nose, and it brings them back from an overdose. And
it's a miracle.
It is. It's a miracle drug. And there's a common misconception that Narcan actually enables people to continue to use. And I would completely debunk that, because I, from my experience, being a person who was Narcan several times and brought back from my heroin overdose, I would argue to say that Narcan is a life-saving drug that enables people to live long enough to get to a place of being at rock bottom and closer to finally finding freedom from addiction. And so that's one reason we are so huge proponents of Narcan, because we really do believe that that's going to enable people to live long enough to get to a place of being ready, because that's what it all comes down to, Sheree, is they have to be ready. They've got to be ready. We can't do it for them. We can't love them into it. They've got to be ready. And then once they're ready, we come in and we give them the tools they need to do it themselves. And again, it's going to take work on their part. They've got to be really ready and motivated to do it. And that's why I think we see the success rate so low, because people would rather continue to use their drugs, because you can go out and you can get a drug, you put it in your body, it makes you feel good, it makes you feel relaxed. Well, the hard thing to do is not put that drug in your body and take the long the long game and have to work through all those feelings and actually get sober. So it takes a few weeks, it takes a few months to get to a point to where you actually start feeling good again, being sober. And we give people the tools they need to find freedom and walk in freedom. But it's like I said, it really takes a strong resolution to stay clean, and that usually comes from people being at rock bottom.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, Chad Logan is my guest. He heads up the Hope Project. That's an organization that helps those who want to stop using or drinking, stop using substances that in turn eventually will kill them. Chad, when we think of the most vulnerable in our society, of course, we think of the little ones, we think babies, young kids, we think of the elderly, but I think I would put addicts in that category, wouldn't you? Because,
yes, I definitely.
That's how they deal with things is by doing things that are going to hurt them.
Yeah, I would say that they're very vulnerable, especially the fentanyl and heroin addicted community. But, here's the thing, really, any addict is vulnerable because you don't know if that last blackout is going to get you in a car accident and kill you, or that, and if you're a heroin addict, you don't know if that next shot, you put that in your vein and it's over. Your fate is sealed. You're either going to get high and come out of it, or you're going to overdose and possibly die. And then, people that, there's just so many things, but, what it all boils down to is they are very vulnerable to being hurt, and they're very vulnerable to being taken advantage of, too. I can't tell you how many people we work with that in a drunken or a high stupor were possibly raped or molested, or they really are, because what they're trying to do is get themselves in a state of where they don't have to think. It's like their brain is their own worst enemy. And so oftentimes for people, that is being in a blackout or taking enough pills to not feel anything or care about anything. And then when they get sober, they've got to deal with the consequences, because really they let their subconscious take over when they get in the blackouts and the stupors.
Do they need special skills after they get clean and sober to know how to navigate life without that artificial stimulation of a drug or alcohol?
Yes, 100%. They need special skills because they will inevitably use again if they don't have them. And what we teach, there's three things really we teach. We teach that they have to have a direct connection with God. They've got to spend time with God every day through prayer and meditation. They need to be helping others. They need to, serve. They've got to be a part of giving back what was so freely given to them. And they've got to continue to take inventory every day. And what I mean by taking inventory is they've got to deal with any resentments, any fears, any harms that they've done or have been done to them. They've got to deal with any of that stuff as it comes, because what we find is that people continue to use because they let all that stuff build up inside of them, and they don't take care of it. And really what we explain that as is what we explain that as is it's like having an abscess. I don't know if you've ever had an abscess, but working.
I had to go to the dentist
steps,
once for something, but go ahead.
Yeah, and that's kind of like that. But what happens when you have an abscess? It hurts really bad. But before it can heal, what has to happen is somebody has to go in there and dig out the infection, and then it has to heal. And that's what we explain the 12 steps as. Is it's probably going to hurt worse before it feels better. And that is what happens. I think what can happen daily if you have a hard day, if you got some stuff you're dealing with, you got to face that pain in a safe place. You got to be able to talk to somebody about it. You got to deal with those resentments and those fears for it to feel better. Because when that abscess happens, you got to take care of it. You got to scrape the poison out of it. And that's what we tell people to do every day, is they've got to be dealing with all that junk inside of them that causes them to be in unfit spiritual condition. And if they don't deal with that, what's going to happen? That abscess is going to get worse and worse and worse. And eventually it's going to probably kill them. And by kill them, I mean it could either physically kill them or it could cause them to relapse and go back to that life of addiction.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's a tough road. We hear that, it's very easy to fall into using some substances depending upon, how your friends pull you into it or people that you meet. But it's one of those things, it's easy to fall into that hole. It's really hard to climb out of it. But people do. You're an example of that. And I'm sure that you have people in the Hope Project that are also showing that, it can be done.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there are three things that I think about when I think about people who are ready, and it's the acronym HOW: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Those are three things that they are not present in the life of an addict. They are inevitably not going to get well. They've got to be honest with people. They've got to be honest with themselves.
Yeah.
They've been lying to themselves for a long time. They've got to be open-minded to take suggestions. And oftentimes these suggestions aren't going to look like, something they want to do, but they've got to be open-minded, and then they've got to be willing to take those suggestions, to be honest, to be, a part of this catalyst that's going to change their entire life. And so that's why we oftentimes showcase stories at the Hope Project, because we want to show people how it can be done, and we want to give them the faith to be honest, open-minded, and willing, to think maybe this thing might really work for them.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. We probably have about a minute and a half. Where can people find out more? How can they attend the meetings? Give us information we need to know.
Yeah. So they can find out everything about our ministry at www.thehopeproject.cc. That C is in cat. And they can reach out to us. My email is chad@thehopeproject.cc. But we do a few things throughout the week. We do our main gathering is on Monday nights at 6 p.m. at Seacoast in West Ashley and here in Charleston, South Carolina. That is open to the public. Anyone who's looking to find some more freedom in their lives and community is welcome at that. And then we do a Narcan training twice a month. We do it the first Friday at 8 p.m. and the third Saturday at 2 p.m. And all that information can be found at thehopeproject.cc/save lives. And so, but our website's got everything you need to know, and we are an open book. If you're a family member and you're listening and you need some help, you need some questions answered, reach out. If you're an addict or someone that has a problem with drinking or drugging, reach out. We're not here to judge you. We're here to walk with you. Or if you just have questions about our ministry, we would love to, just be very transparent with you if you have questions. And if somebody's listening and they want to partner with our ministry financially, they can go to www.thehopeproject.cc/give, and we would be super thankful for people to partner with us to help us in this mission to eradicate addiction in our community.
Yeah, pretty tall order, Chad, but you've witnessed people do it. You've done it, so it's not impossible.
That's right.
At all.
Sheree.
So it's always great and very uplifting to hear your voice and talk to you. And I always say, if you saw Chad, he doesn't look like he's had the history that he has. You're super clean cut, man. You're just so upstanding. But Chad Logan is his name, founder, executive director of the Hope Project. Look for it at thehopeproject.cc. Did I get that right?
That's right, Sheree. Yep.
Wonderful. Chad, we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Sheree. Thanks so much.